How's it going, YouTube? Peshkets here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Sweets deck for Nisekoi, which I made yesterday and played in locals. Went 5-1. Deck did very well, in my opinion. So a lot of my friends who are looking into building a Sweets deck for Nisekoi have basically all been pestering me about what my deck list was, especially after my performance at last night's locals. If you guys want to check out the details on that, I'll leave a link down in the description to the tournament report which I wrote for yesterday's tournament. But for now, we're just going to get right into the deck profile. Okay, so first, starting with the level zeros, I am running 15 level zeros. Starting at the top, we've got 4 copies of the Neighbor Haru. She has the Akatsuki Azusa effect that I'm sure a lot of Japanese players are familiar with. When she's placed onto the stage from your hand, you can discard a card, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose a Sweets trait character among them, and add it to your hand. This is a very, very important card, I believe, and should be a staple of in any Sweets deck. It's very good for filtering out your hand, getting stuff that you don't need out of your hand, and putting more useful cards into your hand for you to use. This is probably the easiest. I guess this is the easiest discard outlet that this deck has, considering that it's free. You don't have to pay any stock, and you're trading 1 card for 1. So this is definitely a card that you want to see a lot. It also helps you get through the deck very quickly if you get climax flooded, because you are looking at up to 4 cards from your deck each time you use this effect. Next up, we have 4 copies of the Global 500 Haru. So obviously, your first ability is a Global 500 power boost to all Sweets characters, and her second ability is only really relevant in a Nisekoi match where you are playing against a standard Nisekoi deck which uses pendants. The effect is, for each pendant of promise in your opponent's memory, this card gives another Global 500 to all your Sweets characters. So the more pendants your opponent has in memory, the more power this card is going to be give. And if you have multiple copies of this card, then those numbers are going to stack up really fast. I remember yesterday in my round 1, my opponent had 2 pendants out. I had 3 of this, so all of my characters were getting plus 4,500 global boost, which is enormous. And this is kind of a weird one. I'm running 3 copies of the Haru Runner. So it's a runner, but it's got a strange runner effect that's not like other runners. So this card, at the start of the opponent's attack phase, can move to an empty slot across from an opponent's character. So it can only run in front of characters. Now, this is kind of a weird effect. Why would you want to run in front of an opponent's character when really the traditional concept of a runner is to move away from your opponent's characters in order to remain safe? Well, there are a couple ways that you can use this ability. For example, let's say your opponent plays 1 weak level 0 and 1 stronger level 0. You can move this card in front of the weak level 0 to not only move this to safety, but make your opponent do less damage. So that's one thing you can do. At the same time, let's say your opponent is playing a deck like Contact Collection, and they have Shimikazes on their field. If their whole field is not Shimikazes, then you can move in front of whatever is not a Shimikaze, so that way they cannot get the reverse off, and they cannot get their search and set up for later stages of the game. So yes, this is a weird runner, but at the same time, it's got some interesting niche uses. Also, one more thing that I thought was really interesting was during the late stages of the game. Let's say your opponent has some really big characters on their board, and you have to crash all yours. You can place this in the back row on your turn so that you can move this into the front row on their turn so that you take less damage. So that's another cool thing about this card. Like I said, a weird choice, but I kind of like it. Plus it's Haru. Being Haru is very important. Next up, running 2 copies of the Kosaki Oversize from the new Extra Booster. Actually, most of the cards in this deck are from the Extra Booster. I think there's only the 2 free refresh Kosaki that are from the old set. So anyways, this card's effect is when it comes into play, reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card is not a Sweets trait character, send it to clock. So if it's a climax or if it's an event, it goes to clock. So very standard demerit seen on a lot of cards. And lastly, I'm running 2 copies of the Kosaki Bonds. This bonds to the 1/0 Haru Brainstorm. Additionally, it has a second effect. When this card is placed on the stage from your hand, look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put them back in the same order. So you can use this to kind of scout out for the top 2 cards of your deck. Should I brainstorm? Should I not brainstorm? Because this card is going to bond into a brainstorm. So if you know that you have a climax on the top couple cards of your deck, you can use the bond and then use your brainstorm ability and search your deck for a card that you might need. So this concludes for the level 0s, 15 level 0s in total. Now moving on to the level 1s. Okay, so now for the level 1s, I'm running 13. We're going to start with the 1-0 climax combo Haru. So this card has a double climax combo with the gold bar climax, so this one right here. The first of the 2 abilities is when this card attacks, as long as you have the climax in play, your opponent cannot use event cards from their hand until the end of their next turn. So this shuts off counter events, this shuts off pendants in a Nisekoi match, and there's just a lot of disruption that this card can do against specific decks. Against like Little Busters, you can use this to turn off your opponent's money counter. You can use this against Contact Collection to turn off their compasses. There are just endless possibilities for the disruption that this card can do with just that effect. Now, it also has a second effect, which is also very good. When this card attacks with the climax in play, you can pay 1 stock. If you do, she gets 3,000 power until the end of the turn, and she also gains the ability, if she reverses the battle opponent, you can choose a card from your clock and add it to your hand, then take the top card of your deck and put it into your clock. So you are essentially gaining 1 free card each time you successfully get this ability. So it's a good level 1 advantage engine. You can get some of the cards you need, and at the same time shut down your opponent's events at the same time. So very solid level 1. I really like this card. Next up, running 4 of the Harus, which I call the Taige archetype. I guess they're also like Ellie or Sonya or things like that, but you get the point. So it's a 1-0, 4,500 power. For every other Sweets character you have on the stage, it gets 500 power. So this allows it to reach a maximum of 6,500 power, assuming you have a full stage of Sweets characters. And this is before supports as well. So assuming you have 2 supports, this can go as high as 7,500, which is very good for a costless level 1, and is the reason that cards with this effect are played in basically every deck that they appear in. You look at Contact Collection, they play Taige. You look at other decks like Love Live plays Ellie. Like I said, just cards like this are good. Now then, moving on to the next level 1. This is the Clock Encore Haru. Apart from Clock Encore, her other ability is when another Sweets character attacks, she gets 1,000 power until the end of the turn for each attack. Now, this allows it to reach a maximum of 6,500, which is the same as the other 1-0 Haru, but at the same time, this having a Clock Encore ability gives you a form of field sustain and allows you to maintain card advantage in a way other than using your 1-0 Climax combo or your Brainstorm. So I only run 3 copies of this, though. I don't really see a reason to run 4 when there are all these other great level 1 options that you can use. And 3 copies, you really only want like 1 on your field at the most. But it is a good card, and I do like using this. Lastly, to finish out the level 1s, I'm running 2 copies of the Haru Brainstorm. I'm only running 2 copies for 2 reasons. The first one being that it has a bond from the level 0 Kosaki, and it's also very easy to get cards in this deck using the level 0 Akatsuki clone Haru. Being able to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and pick the card you need. If you see the Brainstorm in the top 4 and you need the Brainstorm, go ahead and grab it. Now anyways, onto this card's effect. First of all, it gives an assist 500 to characters in front, and the Brainstorm is pay 1, rest 2 characters. For each climax you mill of the top 4, you get to search your deck for a Sweets character. So, just a very standard Brainstorm ability, but the fact that it's tied onto an assist 500 makes the card pretty good. It's almost an Umi Brainstorm from Love Live. Almost. If it was a Global 500, this card would be quite a... Not like a whole lot better, but it would be quite a bit better. But it's an overall very solid card, so I can't complain. So there you have it. That's the level 1s. Let's move on to the level 2s. Now then, for level 2s, I am running 6 cards. So let's start right here with the level support. So this is a 2-1 Kosaki-chan level support. It gives 500 times level in front and she has a second ability, which is a Climax Combo Change. When you play the stock Soul Climax, you can send the Kosaki-chan to the waiting room in order to play a Pajama Party Kosaki from your hand. Now, warning to players that do this, you want to use the Climax Combo ability to play the Kosaki before you play this, before you put the stock from your waiting room into your stock. The reason for this is because if you put the stock and then you do the Climax Combo Change, the level 3 Kosaki that you put onto the stage is not going to get the bonus soul. So Climax Combo abilities like this and the Climax effect can be activated in whatever order you want. So you're going to want to do that the right way if you want to get the Kosaki to have 3 soul. Now then, so that is the ability. So you have the level support and you have the Climax Combo Change. Next up, I'm running 2 copies of the Free Fresh Kosaki. Of course, you guys knew this was going to be in here. It's on the limited list for a reason. Now, this is the only card in the deck that's from the first set as well. So you can build most of this out of the first set, or out of the extra booster. So when this card comes into play, if you have 5 or less cards in your deck, combine your waiting room with your deck, shuffle, and draw 1 card. So this is a free refresh ability. You get to shuffle your waiting room into your deck without taking your refresh damage, and at the same time you get to draw cards. So really good stuff there. Her second ability is kind of difficult to pull off in this deck, but it is helpful to have at some times. You can rest 2 key trait characters, choose one of your characters, and until the end of the turn, that card gains 2,000 power. So this can be used with the Haru Clock Shot if your opponent has a very, very high power character, so that you can ensure your Clock Shot will go through. But it's mostly there for the free fresh ability. Lastly, for the level 2s, I'm running 1 copy of the Haru in Swimsuit counter. So it's a 2/5 backup, but if you have a Sweets character on the stage, then it becomes a 3/5 backup. So it's basically always going to be a 3/5 backup, because there is not a single card in this deck that is not a Sweets trait character. Now then, that's it for the level 2s. Now let's take a look at the big level 3 boss cards of the deck. Now finally we have the level 3s. I'm running 8 of them. First up, we've got 4 copies of the 3/2 Haru from Extra Booster. When this card comes into play, you mill the top 3 cards of your deck. If one of those cards is a Sweets trait character, then this gets 3,000 power until the end of the turn. If 2 of them are Sweets trait characters, you get to heal 1. And if all 3 are Sweets trait characters, then until the end of the turn, this also gains an on reverse Clock Shot ability. Now these abilities stack. So if you mill 3 Sweets characters, not only do you get the Clock Shoot, you also get to heal, and you get plus 3,000 power. So it's a very strong card with a lot of effects piled onto it. If your compression is good, you should not expect to necessarily get the Clock Shot off. I feel like when I play this card, I'm playing it for the heal, and the Clock Shot is just a bonus. So try to be in the mentality that the Clock Shot is not guaranteed, and I think that you'll see a lot of success with this card. And now, finally, we have the level 3 Kosaki. This can be brought out early by the level 2 level support, and it has 2 effects. So first one is what my friends and I at Destination like to call the Great Wall of China. It's an ability where at the start of the opponent's draw phase, choose one of your characters and give it 4,000 power if this card's in the front row. So by boosting herself, she can make herself 14,000 power before supports, which is huge. Allows her to stay on the board and keep using her other ability, which is a Climax combo. Remember this Climax? Yep, this is the same one that brings out the level 3 early. So we have the double Climax combo here. Now the ability is, when this card attacks, if you have the Climax in play, search your deck for a Sweets trait character, and until the end of the opponent's next turn, this card gets plus 2,500. Also, that ability can only be used if all of your characters are Sweets trait. So don't try to fit this into a normal key trait build, because you're going to get wrecked. So very, very powerful ability. You get to search for free. You get free power. and it's just a very, very strong card overall. It's very strong to bring out at level 2. You just have to watch out for your opponent's anti-change counters, and you're good to go. Let's talk about goals for the deck at specific parts of the game. I feel like this deck is geared to set up for the level 2 game. You have a lot of cards that can manipulate and filter out your hand, such as the level 0 Akatsuki clone, and that is why we're running 4 of that. During the level 1 game, you want to be able to use your 1-0 Climax combo to grab cards that you need from your clock that can set you up for later stages of the game. The most important part of the game for this deck is the level 2, where you use the 2-1 Kosaki-chan Climax combo to get to your level 3 Kosaki, and from there, you can use her Climax combo, search out for your late game, which is your Haru level 3s. Because this serves as not only your healer, but also your finisher, possibly, it's a very good card to grab during the level 2, and you can just keep on building stock. Now, I don't think the stock required to play this deck is actually that high. Going into like level 3, I actually feel like 4 stock is enough, which means you only have to leave like 1 stock from the previous turn, or even 0 if you're playing a stock soul climax. It's a fairly low economy deck. It can get away from having not very much stock, but at the same time, if you're able to compress your deck super hard, definitely go for it. So ultimately, this deck is based around setting up for level 2. You can deal soul damage during your level 1 game by using your Climax combo, and if you can gain a card advantage or damage lead during that stage of the game, and also have a strong level 2 game, then that is definitely the recipe for this deck's success. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be uploading some gameplay footage from Friday's tournament within the next couple days, so be sure to keep on the lookout for that as well. If you haven't already, please click the annotation which you will see on the screen, which goes to John Flores' Weapon Daughter deck for Nisekoi, which he played in yesterday's tournament as well. I hope you guys all enjoyed. This has been Peshcats, and I will see you next time. Bye!